that we've got a wonderful thing going on here. I hope your sons and daughters go home every night and tell you all the good things. It's a school, so the most important thing about a school is what happens in the classroom. It's reading and writing and arithmetic. But as a principal, I've been an administrator for about 20 years here. This is my 7th year at Woburn. Really convinced that, if we're really preparing our sons and daughters for the world that they're going to live in, not just the world that we're going to live in, that we have to go above and beyond the reading, writing, and arithmetic. So we start every assembly here at Woburn High School with a Pledge of Allegiance. So I'd like everybody to stand up, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So the turnout here is extraordinary. The turnout here is extraordinary, and I'm not surprised. Each year I have to interview new teachers coming to Woburn High School. And so the people walk in and they look at this beautiful building. And they say, geez, the greatest part about this school has to be the building. And I say, the greatest thing about our school are our kids. And the close second is the students and the teachers and the adults that work with those kids every day. We've got great opportunities for all of our students in the classroom, on the stage, in the music, drama. We have 65 clubs and activities. And for our purposes tonight, all the athletic opportunities for our students. That doesn't happen in many, many towns. One thing I've found out over the last 7 years is that because we're such a tight-knit community, we accept everybody, okay? Sometimes we don't look out and see what's outside and see all the advantages that we have here at Woburn that we can offer our students. That comes from great leadership. So we have leadership with us today. I'd like to recognize he's not only the mayor, but he's also a parent tonight. We have Mayor Galvin out back to my left. We have Superintendent Mark Donovan. And I saw 3 members of our school committee. I saw Chris Kissel, Joe Demers, and Pat Chisholm. And if I haven't seen anybody else, I apologize for that. Just one quick word, because then we'll move on to the program. Last week, we started school on Wednesday. So we had the first assemblies of the year. We met with grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, and grade 12. We talk about what the form and function of each of those grades is at the high school, okay, and why it's important that we have freshmen in the high school, why it's important for freshmen to look at the sophomores, juniors, and seniors. We talked about the sophomores, looking at the upperclassmen and see what it means to be about a leadership in the school, okay, so it's leadership in the classroom or it's leadership in all different opportunities. Again, like we talk about tonight, we're talking about sports. We talked about the juniors, that they are going to assume the leadership because the seniors start to have one foot out the door. Okay, and lastly, we talk about the seniors about reflecting upon what it means to be a leadership, what it means to hold your head high and proud, and the whole notion of Tanner pride. But with all the classes, we talk about, the critical piece for me here as the principal is that every student be prepared for the next step after high school. So most of the students, it's going to be a 4-year college. Some of them might be a 2-year college. Some kids might take the big step and go into the military. Others might go into a training program like the Peterson School, or others might go into a union. But no matter what it is, every senior, okay, or every student over the course of the 4 years, but every senior has to develop a plan, okay? And developing plan means about making decisions about who you are, okay, and what you want to be. The program tonight is about decisions, okay? It's about decisions. It's about decisions about who you are and who you want to be. Great thing we have here at the high school is we all work together, okay? I think the kids know I'm pretty approachable. They come down my office, they see me in the cafeteria, but I'm approachable, as I have great assistant principals with Mr. McGuire and Mr. Delden, and Ms. Patrici. Okay, we hope that the adults are approachable because we all work together. We all work together to help kids make decisions. Because that's what tonight is about, is decisions. The big decision is that you folks all came in unison to come here tonight together, parent and child. All right? And we want you to know that we're going to be part of that to help kids go through the path. Okay, we're going to have a couple of different stories. We have some parents here that are going to talk about their story. Okay, because everything is out there in the world. Okay, everything is out there in the world. We read the newspaper every day. We see it in the news. We talk about kids with decisions and the range of decisions between alcohol, smoking cigarettes, kids smoking pot, all the way to the path with pills, opiates, and then heroin. Okay? What we're saying tonight is we're going to have some parents who are real courageous in telling their story. Okay? And what we want to take is about what the potential is out there, but how we all can work closely together. And how with one bad decision, like the flip of a switch, okay, lives can change dramatically. Okay, so we're talking about decisions about chemical health tonight, but it really goes about modeling, about thinking and being deliberate about what you're doing. So with that, I'm going to transition over to Rick Jolly. Rick Jolly is the executive director of Woburn CASA. Just as I introduced the mayor and the superintendent of the schools, the members of the school committee, you know, I work with Officer Fumatello, our SRO, Chief Ferrulo. We all work as a great team here in Woburn. Okay, and so with the new group that's come forward last year, we look forward to working with Rick Jolly. Rick.
Good night, folks. Thanks for coming. This is a great turnout. I just want to say a couple of things quickly, and then we're going to be turning the program back over to for a brief sports session, and then we'll be doing something more on substance abuse. But I don't want everybody to think that there's a big heroin problem at the Woburn High School, because there isn't. That's not what we're doing this program about tonight. It's about opiate addictions and how. Just to give you a few statistics. The surveys have shown that 1 out of every 5 high school students will misuse some prescription drug during their 4 years in high school. Other surveys show that more than half of the heroin addicts started with prescription medication. So basically what we're looking at tonight is like Principal Finnegan said, making the right decisions, making good choices, you know, being responsible if something happens, if you do have to take certain medications. For the parents, basically, for them is, you know, you got a 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old child. They're still a child. Don't allow them to self-medicate. You know, that's your responsibility. Anything, if you have narcotics that you're not using in your house, package them up, bring them to the Woburn Police Station. We have a locked box in the front lobby. Drop them in there, get rid of them. If you are still using narcotics for problems that you have, you know, back problems or after surgery, lock them up. Don't leave them out so your kids can find them. And your kids might be the greatest kids in the world, but don't think for a second, if they got certain friends that are probably not great people, that they're not going through your medicine cabinet when they're using your bathroom when you're not there. So just a couple of things to keep in mind. I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Finnegan, and we'll be back to talk to you shortly.
Another great resource we have here at the school, and a friend to you, is a source of information and support in all different areas of life outside of school, but life inside the schools and helping support kids, is Officer Fumatello.
I think these podiums are getting taller. Can you see me? Yeah, I'm getting shorter. Welcome, everybody. I want to thank Principal Joe Finnegan and Athletic Director James Duran for putting this together. This is quite a sight to see the auditorium filled. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I'm just going to kind of reinforce what you've already started to hear. I'd like to start by saying how important it is for parents to stay vigilant. Today's youths face many hidden dangers. An educated and informed parent can help support his or her child in making good, solid decisions. Substance abuse is not a new issue. It's been around for decades. The struggle has always been there. It's continued to take from us many good people, ruin many families, many lives, and destroy everything that we've learned and built throughout the years. So, I asked myself, how do so many people fall victim to these poor decisions? Unfortunately, I don't have that answer, and I'm pretty sure that there's nobody I know that could answer that with certainty. It is, though, become clear today that prescription drugs have been linked to increasing numbers of drug addictions. The correlation is important, and you should keep this in mind in making decisions in regards to pain relief treatments for unfortunate athletic injuries. The way we manage pain seems to have become the new gateway to substance abuse. The new drug dealer in town seems to become our pharmacist. I'm not blaming them, but we do need to stay educated and aware of all the possible treatments and monitor them closely. So I looked to this question about poor judgment in making decisions and how that can change the outcome of one's life. I believe you would agree with me that everything about you and around you is because of the decisions you've made. These decisions are a bridge between the thoughts and actions. Pretty simple. When we make any decision, we must accept the outcome, like it or not, because we made that decision. But in reality, we tend to validate our decisions. And then we start blaming things or blaming something. When we can't seem to get through that blame list, it all comes down to one thing. It was a mistake. And we all make mistakes. Let me give you a quick definition of failure. A few errors in judgment that are repeated every day. One bad decision may not cause a catastrophic damage to you, but the consistent repetition of these choices can alter one's life for good. The damage may not come the first day, it might not come the second day, but I can assure you it's coming. Well then, how do we change failure to success? It's simple. Success is a few simple, disciplined practices done every day. A couple examples might be good health, good habits, being of good character. With this, you can start towards success. I want students to remember this. There's no could have, there's no should have, there's no it won't happen to me. These all lead to disaster in the end. Eliminate all the errors, such as drugs, alcohol, bullying, violence, because these are all diseases of attitude and judgment, which destroys everything about success. So how do we stay on track for success? I believe it's by setting goals for yourself. Every person in this room has their own personal philosophy, which in order to achieve your goals, you may have to change your philosophy a little bit. To every student here, I want you to take advice, not orders. Take information you gather and make what you do with it the product of your own decision. Use everything you learn and discover to wonder, think, ask questions before you take action. When you do take action and make a decision, it should be your own and not somebody else's influence. Remember, making decisions is a life skill that's not taught to you. Don't make decisions based on emotions, but instead on your goals that you have set and the information you gathered, and sometimes just knowing to do the right thing. If you can learn to make smart, well-developed choices, you then hold the power to write your own life. The major key to success and a better life is quite simple. It's you. I hope all of you make good self-choices, informed decisions, and build yourself a great life story. Thank you.
And the theme of us being fortunate here at Woburn to work as a good team, I'd like to recognize and thank our athletic director, Jim Duran, for all his work in putting the program tonight together. Okay, thank you, Jimmy. When planning the night, Jimmy and I thought, well, let's have a voice from outside of Woburn, okay? So Rick is bringing the group from the South Shore, okay? And so we thought, who would be a good voice to get the message across about what the MIAA brings to schoolboy and schoolgirl sports in Massachusetts, but also to put a positive face on the MIAA for the support that it offers us as a school. So the person we thought of right off, we both thought of it, is Barry Haley. Barry's with us tonight. Barry's on the executive board of the MIAA. He's in charge of the boys and girls ice hockey tournament. Okay, he works with a number of different sports committees in the state, and beyond that, he's the athletic director at Concord Carlisle High School. Okay, so Barry's a busy, busy man. But most important, Barry's a great resource for both Jimmy, myself, and other principals and athletic directors across the state. So Barry Haley.
Good evening. It's no surprise to see this crowd here. Grew up in Melrose, was not a very good athlete, but high school athletics have been and will continue to be a passion in my life. Been an athletic director. Now this is the start of my 29th year of doing this, so sometimes I wonder what's wrong with me. But the varied experiences that take place in athletics are just the substance of life. So this is an absolute honor for me to come here and speak with you. Great relationship with Woburn High School athletic programs. I have great respect for the coaches in this program, Coach Nelson, Coach Sullivan, Coach Duran, Coach McCurtain, all of them I've worked with many times. Beyond ice hockey for boys and girls, a couple of years ago when they revamped the football tournament, I was probably the most opposed person in the state to that tournament. And over the summer after it was voted in, they asked me to be the tournament director for that. And I said, why would you want me to do that? Because they wanted to run well. And I pride myself on working to make the experience that kids have in tournaments the pinnacle of a season. I know how hard you started working months and months ago and work every day with the dream of having that great tournament experience. So the MIAA, what is it? Usually when people talk about, there's usually a profanity before or after. And I take that personally because I am the MIAA. And so isn't Mr. Finnegan and Mr. Duran and your coaches and the athletic director at Belmont High School and the principal at Stoneham High School. The MIAA is an organization of schools. We all join together to govern high school athletics, to make sure that the experience that 280,000 students on a yearly basis take part in. And we try to make a fair and level playing field for all the students, and we get it right most of the time. We don't always get it right, and that's why the organization works so well, is because we are the organization. I served for 3 years as the vice president and 2 years as president of the association, and I can tell you the people that sit in the office that we hire to manage the day-to-day make no decisions. Every time a decision was made that it impacted a high school athlete in this state, the executive director said, "What do you think?" And I gave my opinion, and we went forward in what's the best interest of all the high school kids. A retired principal that I knew well said it, I think, best, that nowhere do you find it in education like you find it in activities, that teachers are teaching what they want to teach to students who are learning what they want to learn, and both are willing to work hour after hour on their own time after school, so everything that can be taught is taught, and everything that can be learned is learned. Parents, thank you for giving all of us the opportunities to work with the thing you love most in the world, your children. It's awesome responsibility that we take very seriously. I know the coaches in Woburn do. I know the coaches in Concord and every place that I've worked do. We probably spend more time with your children than you do on a weekly basis. Could be good, could be bad. But the end result is a life experience that kids have. I have two sons, 31 and 27 years old, who grew up around high school athletics. They learned some words through the high school athletes that I probably wish they hadn't learned as young as they learned. But as men now, they've stayed involved in athletics. My oldest son works for the Atlanta Falcons. I saw him for 32 seconds on TV at the end of the game last night. But the lessons that they learned, I see, are very rooted in the core of their life. So I ask parents to trust the people from the school, to work with them, to trust the MIAA. The MIAA is an organization, can't take every phone call from every parent out there. It's just 375 schools. Think of the number of students and number of parents involved in it. Any questions regarding that, please reach out to Mr. Finnegan, Mr. Duran. Many times they call me or call other athletics if they don't, athletic directors if they don't know the answer. All of these positions are unpaid. I volunteer my time because I love what I do. I love being involved in high school athletics. Over the last few years, the MIA has developed what we call the 5 pillars or foundations of athletics. In no particular order, coaches' education. Coaches are where the rubber meets the road. They have what each and every student athlete in this room wants, and that's playing time. We want coaches to be the best equipped to teach the lessons of life, of educational athletics. As Mr. Finnegan said, the most important thing we do when we come in this building and in Concord every day is academics. That's our mission. And one of the ways that we develop that mission to the best is the other half of it. And I think the principal at Concord says he runs the school from 8 to 2, and I run the school from 2 to 8. Well, that might not be true, but sometimes I feel that's true. But coaches' education is a key component of what the MIAA provides. Wellness is important. There's almost a weekly wellness seminar of some way for kids to empower them to make healthy choices in life. And it's every part of life. What you eat, nutrition, exercise, fitness programs, what you shouldn't do. And you'll hear more about that. Sportsmanship is my key component. You know, every game we want to win. And every day when I pick up the newspaper, I want to see that a Concord Carlisle team won, and I want to see that a Woburn team won, except when they're playing Concord Carlisle. And I think every athlete feels that way. I say it when I talk to teams before the tournament, is respect the game, respect the officials, respect your teammates, and have fun. And those are the key components of sportsmanship. Respecting your opponent. The students in Concord are different, but they're the same as the students here. The students at Wakefield are different, but they're the same. I think every principal and athletic director will tell you, as Mr. Finnegan said, the best part of this school is the students. That's how I recruit coaches. I'm going to say, you're going to deal with 15, 20, 30 of the best kids you've ever dealt with in your life, and great parents on top of that. And from my experiences with Woburn Athletics over the years, no different here. Leadership is another pillar. To promote the power of positive influence, student athletes and teacher coaches share as role models. All right? Every single team member is a leader. All right? Take it upon yourself to be a leader in any way you can. Be a friend, be a support system, but leadership is a key. There are many, many opportunities the MIA provides to teach those leadership skills. And the last pillar is community service. I'm not aware of the community service, but I'm sure there's required community service. The thing I challenge our athletes to, and all athletes that I speak with, is when you came to your first high school athletic event, when you were 5 years old, 3 years old, or last week, you want to be those kids out there. You have a great responsibility to give back to this community that gave you the opportunities that you have right now in front of you and over the next months, seasons of this year. Take that pup, want a football, play catch with him, teach him something, give back to it. Every one of those little kids wants to be you, wants to wear that jersey, wants to be and have the experience you're having. So it's an awesome responsibility you have. In everything you do, I've heard many times it said, character is what you do when no one's looking. So have great character and be a leader in the community. In the United States, there are 7 million young men and women that participate annually in interscholastic athletics. 7 million students, high school sports is a privilege unique to American students. In no other country in the world does athletics so closely bond with the high school experience or the school experience. A couple years ago, I spoke at a conference in London for Endicott College, and the people there were amazed at what we do, that 15 buses, leave here at the end of the school day with no students on it because 500 plus students, almost half the school, are running out to the practice field to participate in athletics. It's a great, great thing that we have and something we should be thankful for. The opportunity to play organized athletics beyond the high school come only to a select few. So if you dream of a professional career, if you dream of a college career, it's a great dream. Go for it. Have the best. Unfortunately, only 5% of students that participate in athletics in high school in this country participate in athletics at college. And many of them participate in athletic programs that are outside of basketball, baseball, football, soccer. So seize the moment, the experience you're going to have now. Take a step back at some point this season when the sun's setting over the practice field and the leaves are changing the colors on the trees, and enjoy the experience you have and the opportunity you have. A couple of MIA rules that are talked about quite often, I just want to highlight, and one that I've been stressing over for the last 2 weeks is the new physical examination rule. And that is that physical exams only are current for 13 months. So hopefully, and most every student in here is having ongoing medical care, the one thing you need to do is bring that printed physical form into the school nurse, all right? Because I'm sure Mr. Duran is the same as me, is you don't step on that field without a valid physical exam. It's a huge liability for both the school, for the community. So parents, we're asking you help in that. If you can bring that in, make sure that's on file in the school. The bona fide team member rule is another big one. The rule very simply states all athletes on all teams must comply with the bona fide team rule. Bona fide members of a school team are precluded from missing a high school practice or competition in order to practice in a non-school athletic event in any MIAA-recognized sport. Students who account conflicts of this rule should speak with the coach and, most importantly, the athletic director. With the proliferation of club sports and out-of-season activities and single-sport athletes, but we all want you to be part of this. These conflicts arise, all right? There's this Disney showcase for college coaches. Well, sorry, but Disney showcase is about selling hotel rooms in Disney in February. But the bona fide team rule is serious. The penalty for it is loss of eligibility for 25% of the season or loss of tournament eligibility. So your team goes on to the tournament and you violated the bona fide team rule, you can't play in the tournament. You let your teammates down, the disappointment is great. So make sure when those conflicts come up or they have potential of coming up, speak with the athletic director, speak with your coach. The MIAA, or the state concussion rule, is something that we're all dealing with right now. Hopefully all of you went on to the National Federation website and spent 20 minutes with the concussion rule. We had a soccer game Saturday night. 2 girls collided head to head. Our girl was unconscious on the field. All right? Her 4th concussion in her career. It's very serious. Do we do impact testing, baseline impact testing? It's something that's available to anyone through your primary care physician, baseline impact testing. It's a good starting point for families to go. I encourage anyone to do it. I certainly encourage you to go on and spend 20 minutes of your time to watch that video on the National Federation. It's a free course, and a lot of it is information, warning signs, what you do. But we're finding more and more that this is not something that, kids aren't tough anymore. Well, that's not the case. All right, this is a serious, and I fought against the implementation of the law, not because I didn't think it was the right thing to do. I just thought it was a huge responsibility to put on schools, but I was wrong, and I'm glad we did it, and it's made high school athletics safer for kids. MIA Rule 62 is the chemical health rule. You've heard a little bit about decision making. I'll read the rule. Hopefully you know it. From the earliest fall practice date to the conclusion of the school year, a student shall not, regardless of quantity, use, consume, possess, buy, sell, or give away any substance containing tobacco, alcohol, marijuana, or any controlled substance. It is not a violation for a student to be in possession of a legally defined drug specifically prescribed for the student's own use by his or her doctor. This rule demands a high standard of responsibility of our student athletes. Thus, the penalties for violation of this rule would be loss of eligibility for 25% of the season. A second or subsequent offense leads to loss of eligibility for the greater of 12 weeks or 12 events, whichever is greater. If this penalty carries over to a season, it impacts the next season. That's the rule, all right? The MIAA is not the police officer of schools. This is a student handbook rule that's in every student handbook of every school in the state. If you violate this rule, you're not violating an MIAA rule, you're violating a Woburn High School rule. And Woburn High School would have to enforce that penalty on you. I challenge every student in here to think about the things they do. Can you make a 3-month commitment to your teammates, to your coach, to your family, to your friends, to not do that, to not violate that rule? Think about it. It's not an easy choice to make. I'm, like I say, my sons are older, but I'm a much more aware parent, a much more aware athletic director after my sons went through high school athletics, because I saw the situations they were put in during their high school athletic careers. I can say one of my sons made great decisions. One night I was sitting with my wife having dinner. My son was at a friend's house. He called us up and said, "Can you come and get me right now? Bad things are going to happen. I don't want to be a part of it." I was probably never more proud of him than I was at that moment, because that was a good choice. And bad things did happen that night. And athletes that, he relied on to be teammates weren't able to play over the next couple of weeks. Not an easy thing to say, to make that challenge, but challenge yourself. Challenge your teammates. Leadership, again, comes in here. Can you do it? I hope you can. As I said earlier, this is my passion. I think what we do, the experiences we have over the next weeks, months, the rest of this year is just great stuff, all right? I'm energized every single day that I get, when I grow up, I want to have a job like I have now, but, hopefully you'll all have a great experience this season. Hopefully you'll have the best of luck, except when you play Concord, and I wish you the very best. Good night.
Thank you, Barry. Clearly, Barry's responsibility is clear in what he does in the state, okay? Also forcing the piece back that the MIA is really the member schools. As a whole, Barry's comments made me think of a coach who I had early in my career was a mentor, and he had a saying that was, to play the game is great, to win the game is greater, to love the game is greatest of all, okay? That's why we play our sports. With that, we're going to transition our program. We're going to transition back over to Rick Jolly and our guests who are going to have a compelling message for all of us, students and parents alike.
Yeah, anybody that's standing up, there are actually plenty of seats right here if you want to make your way down a little bit closer. Yes, no? Anybody? No? Okay. I'm going to introduce Lori and Dave Gonzalez. They're from Taunton, Massachusetts, and they have a story to tell you about how opioid abuse affected their family. And Lori, Dave.
Hello, Tanners. Come on now. Hello, Tanners. I'm Dave, and this is my wife, Laurie. And in a little bit, you'll meet our son, Corey, after we kind of tell and show on a video, which we'll show you in a few minutes, a story of drug addiction, and as your principal was saying, decision-making that our son, Corey, did when he was in high school. Our son, Corey, was pretty much the typical American high school student, as I'm sure each and every one of you are in this auditorium right now. He was a good student. He was on National Honor Society. He had a lot of friends. He played a lot of different sports. He played soccer. He played football. He played basketball. But his passion was baseball. And he played sports from the time he was a little 5-year-old kid through middle school and into high school. And we never thought in a million years that we would be standing before you people today talking about drug addiction and how our son, Corey, became a drug addict. It wasn't like, oh, we just kind of forgot to tell him about the dangers of drugs. We forgot to tell you that. He was taught all of that, as I'm sure all of you and your parents have taught each and every one of you. He knew the dangers of drugs. He knew he should stay away from them. But, again, as your principal talked about earlier, it comes down to decision-making. Making the right decision at the right time, or unfortunately making the wrong decision. And this is kind of his story. When he was 18 years old, he was a senior in high school. He had to have shoulder surgery on his left shoulder. Oh, excuse me, his right shoulder, right. And the shoulder surgery turned out to be not successful. He would never throw a baseball or a football again in high school sports. His dreams of playing baseball maybe in college were dashed. And as you can imagine, any dreams they may have had in becoming a professional athlete were down the drain. None of that was going to come to fruition. Well, how did this bring us to drugs? Well, he graduated from high school, but when the surgery was going on and after the surgery happened, of course, he was prescribed legally by a doctor in a hospital, Percocets and painkillers for the pain after the surgery. He took them like he was supposed to. And then he graduated from high school and went on to college. And he was living away at college, so his mother and I really didn't know what was going on there in college. And I guess what ended up going on there was on the college campus, there's a lot of temptations, whether it's alcohol or marijuana or pills. And on the campus, he must have found someone who was selling pain prescription pills, oxys, perks, and he started buying them on campus. And he started taking them. He started taking them, not because he physically needed them, but he kind of remembered that before when he took those pills, it not only made the physical pain go away in his shoulder, but for him, it kind of made the emotional pain go away. He says he called it kind of like making him feel normal again, because he wasn't feeling normal at college. In fact, he was very anxious. He was very depressed. Like I said, all his friends were off to practice after class to play one sport or another, and he was playing none of them. His dreams of, like I said, playing sports in college and maybe the pros just weren't going to be happening. So he was depressed, and he made some bad decisions. And he started taking those pills. And he started off with 1 or 2, become 5, become 10 a day, and they become pretty expensive. And then you start losing focus with your studies. And by around Christmas time of that year, he came home and kind of gave us the news, you know, I don't really think college is for me. I don't think I want to be in college. I think I'm going to drop out. And he did not have very good grades at all. He was failing, which for him, for his mother and I, was unbelievable because he was a very, very smart, intelligent student. Well, I suppose college is not for everybody. He thought he wanted college, but maybe he changed his mind. All right, fine, it's not the worst thing in the world. We didn't really know about the addiction at that point. So he dropped out of college. He was living at home. All right, let's go get a job. He got a job. He started working. But he couldn't really seem to hold a job for very long. He was quitting or he was getting fired. He was not behaving like himself. He was very moody. After a while, I started playing Detective Clouseau here, going through his car, going through his room. What can I find around here? Until we did find the drug paraphernalia. We kind of figured out what was going on. We confronted him, and he fessed up. And we kind of knew that we had a problem on our hands. So, what can you do? We sent him away to rehab to try to get better. He went to rehab. He was there, came out. We kind of thought things were going to be okay. He was actually what we'd call clean, not being on drugs, for 3 or 4 months. Things seemed to be going okay. And then he would relapse, which means he would kind of have a weak moment, make another poor choice, decision, and he would go back to it. And then we'd send him back to rehab, and so on. This pattern went on 12 times. 12 times. After 12 times, and this is about 3 years plus down the road, we came to a conclusion. We have a serious problem on our hands because at that time, not only, and this is what will always happen, starts off with prescription pills, more and more and more, and then that becomes very expensive. He was going through maybe $300 a day. Where was he going to get that money from? Well, sometimes he got that money because he stole it from me, or his mother, or some other relative, because he had to get that drug just to go back and feel normal. And as he called it, not to get high, but just to get by, to make him feel normal. This went on. After a while, he figured out, like all addicts eventually do, they end up switching to heroin. Why? Because heroin is so much cheaper. So he was on heroin, and that's the worst. Not that any illegal drug is good, it isn't, of course, but that's the worst he could possibly ever do. He was on heroin, and this was for a good probably maybe 2 years, back and forth, in and out of rehab. Finally, after 12 times, his mother and I came to a decision. We finally got on the same page. We're going to send him to rehab this time, and when he's out of rehab, I'm sorry, but you're just not welcome to come back home. He was 25 years old at the time. Okay? You're not welcome to come back home until you have at least 6 months clean time. Where am I going to go? Well, you're going to go to a place called a sober house, where other recovering addicts all try to support each other to stay clean, get and keep a job, and try to rebuild their life again. And he was down in Falmouth, down the Cape. We had sent him to a long-term facility down there, and we paid over $7,000 out of pocket to send him there. And then after he came out of that facility, he went to the sober house. Okay? He was there for about a month and a half. It was the summer, 2 summers ago, the summer of 2013. And it was a Monday night, as we recall. We recall at 10 o'clock at night, we get a phone call from one of his friends who was living at the sober house also, trying to recover and stay clean, saying, I'm sorry to inform you, but Corey seems to have relapsed. Okay, and we thought, well, that's number 13. We're on 12, but it was a disappointment. So my wife and I were going to go down to the Cape. All right, we've got to sign him into rehab again, so on and so forth. On the way down there to the Cape, you get a call from the same friend. We're at the hospital here where we overdosed. And they want to know, what religion are you? Religion? Why? Because we're going to need to call a priest to give him the last rites. He's probably not going to make the night. We didn't really think it was that serious. But not only did he relapse, he overdosed. I mean, he had been clean an extended amount of time. I want to say it's like something like 75 or 80 days. That's almost 3 months, being totally clean. And then when he relapsed and went back to it, your body's not ready. You know, you've been clean for almost 3 months. And he took too much, evidently, and had a seizure. And went for approximately, they think, 2.5 minutes without breathing before somebody found him in his room, busted the door down, called 911, cleared out his airway, got him to breathe again. And lucky for him, Falmouth Hospital was only about 3 minutes away from where he was living. The hospital gets there, the ambulance gets there, brings him to the hospital. I think at least once, maybe twice, his heart had stopped. And they used the paddles there to restart his heart. And by the time we got there at the hospital, you can imagine it was not a happy time to see your one and only son laid out in the bed in the emergency room of the hospital, being given the last rites by the priest. And the doctors and nurses working on him so hard, saying, we're trying so hard to save his life, but we don't think he'll see the light of the morning next day. And a lot of praying was going on. And I guess just by the grace of God, looking back on it now, 99 people out of 100 who overdosed and did what he did after being clean 75, 80 days probably would have died. And he was the 1% that lived. He lived. Doctors still coming in telling us, touch and go, he's on life support. He's unconscious, he's on life support. A machine is breathing for him. Still touch and go, 50-50 chance whether he lives or dies. Went on for many days, for 5 days, I believe it was. On the 5th day, they said, we can't leave him on the respirator this whole time. We're going to remove the breathing tube from him. And hopefully he'll breathe on his own. And that was the moment. And they removed the breathing tube. And by the grace of God, he started breathing on his own. And 9 days later, came out of it and started his recovery. But it's a long road. On that night, July 15th, 2013, drugs let him live, but has left him and his family members with a permanent reminder of the power of what they can do to you and how they're going to affect your life for the rest of your life. We have this video that we're going to show that I don't even know why it was. I guess maybe it was because I kind of thought I would never see him alive again. So I took my phone and just, I don't know what made me do it. The pictures you're going to see of him in this video, some still, some video, I just took because I thought I would never see him alive again. And took some pictures. Little did I know we'd use it to make this PSA video to hopefully inform young people of the dangers of drugs. So we're going to introduce to you this little 12-minute video on this, and my wife's going to talk about it for a second.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laurie. I am a member of the Taunton Opiate Task Force. I actually co-chair the Taunton Opiate Task Force. And one of our first projects that we did was do a public forum, and in conjunction with the mayor of Taunton's office and the Taunton School Department, we put together this public service message that you're going to see now. It pretty much tells you Corey's journey. I just wanted to thank, I know they're not here obviously, but I just wanted to thank the city of Taunton and the Taunton School Department, because we now travel around to different schools in the state, and hundreds and thousands of kids in this state have seen this video, and we're hoping that maybe we can just touch one of you. And I just want to stress that when Corey took those pills, he took them because he thought that they would make things better for him. He actually had a pro scout from the Seattle Mariners come to Taunton and look at him. So he actually had some hope of possibly, moving forward and playing in the major leagues. Not to say that he would get drafted, but at least that happened. So when he couldn't pitch anymore, the pro scout just disappeared. All his scholarship offers from college disappeared. And, he thought that a pill and a drink would make those things go away. And as you'll see, that if you have something that's bothering you, alcohol or drugs become the biggest problem. They do not solve your problem. They become your biggest problem. And I just want all of you to keep that in mind. I know sometimes people say, oh, I need a drink. I've had a bad day. We need to not rely on some kind of substance that alters the way we feel to make us feel better. We need to just face our problems head on and deal with them. Because Corey didn't know how to deal with them, so his best way to deal with it was to take a pill that would make those feelings that he was feeling go away because he didn't want to feel sad. So with that said, this is Corey's journey.
When you're addicted, you hurt the people that you love the most.
People don't realize that an addict is the kid next door.
It doesn't stop. It just keeps mushrooming, getting worse and worse until it just spirals completely out of control.
My life sucks now.
So it was July 15th, 2013, and my cell phone rang. My name is Tom. I live with Corey in the sober house, and he said, I'm sorry to tell you that he relapsed.
The neurologist came in there
yeah.
pretty much kind of said, well, we think now he might live, but he has extensive brain damage, and that maybe his brain is only functioning at 20%.
And then they had to take him off the life support. And they weren't sure whether his brain was functioning enough that he would breathe on his own. So that was kind of scary within itself, not knowing whether once they turned that machine off, whether he would breathe on his own.
I remember when I woke up at the hospital and I had a tube down my throat and it hurt and I couldn't see anything except a white sheet.
He was always very athletic from day one. He loved baseballs and footballs and basketballs. He played Taunton East Little League. He made Little League when he was 9, and he played 4 years in Little League, and he made the All-Stars all 4 years of Little League. He was a really good pitcher and shortstop, really good baseball player, very talented. He was the type of kid that any sport he played, he excelled at. He played on the freshman team at Taunton High, and then when he was a sophomore, he tried out for varsity, and he made the varsity team. He also played freshman football, and as a freshman, he also played varsity. He was the kicker on the varsity team. He was a quarterback on the freshman and JV team and a kicker on the varsity team. Corey was an excellent student all through school. He was always on the honor roll from first grade through his senior year in high school. In his sophomore year at Taunton High, he was inducted into the National Honor Society, which was a proud moment for me as a mom. He was always a really good student. He was always a really good kid, never had any behavior issues with him, never had a detention, never had any problems at all with him. He was always really good, never gave me a hard time. His junior year, going into senior year, he hurt his shoulder, and he had to have shoulder surgery on his right arm, which was devastating to him because it dashed all his dreams of moving forward and playing baseball in college or professionally. scholarships.
My dreams were to play baseball in college, and when that didn't happen, I felt depressed and anxious all the time. And I remembered that when I took the Percocets, how good they made me feel. So then I started to take Percocets every day in order to feel better.
He was going through a lot of emotional things, some depression, some anxiety. And my husband and I weren't really aware of that, only because he wasn't living at home.
I went from pills to heroin one day when I went to a friend's house and he had heroin, and I tried it and it was the best feeling I've ever felt.
We knew that he had a problem with prescription pills, with Percocet and Oxy, and we were trying to deal with that, but nothing prepared us for the moment that we found out he was using heroin. It was Christmas Eve, 2009. Dave pushed the door open, and he was in there with a needle.
Doing heroin was me chasing that original high the whole time. Some people call it chasing the magic dragon.
If he was using every day and he was out at, his grandfather's house or out socially or working a job, nobody would ever know. Because it comes a point with heroin where they don't use to get high, they use to get by. Because if they don't use, they're going to get sick.
To buy the drugs, I would pawn stuff from the house. I even pawned all my mother's jewelry and my grandfather's wedding ring. I used heroin to maintain my daily life.
We tried to reason with him. We tried so many different addiction centers. We just tried everything, and nothing worked. And then it just gets to a point where you have to realize this is way bigger than we are, and we just needed some professional help. There's so many resources out there for parents, but we weren't aware of any of them. And Dave and I would sit in our kitchen, like, where do we turn? What do we do? I'd never dealt with addiction before in my life. I was ashamed or embarrassed to ask anybody about it. And I don't know, I just felt like it's not out there enough. There's not resources. There's a ton of them, but how do you find out where they are and what's available to you?
A lot of them, when you send them to a short-term thing, like 7 days, 10 days, whatever it is, they're not going to get it in 7 or 10 days. And I think insurance companies kind of need to maybe rethink that about how they deal with this issue.
He has balance issues. He does have a lot of falls. If he moves too quickly or he bends over, he will fall. So he can still walk around and maneuver around and do okay, but he can't see small print. He can't read. He can't use a computer. He can't use the cell phone. I have to help him in the morning when he gets stressed. He can't button or zip. I have to help him tie his shoes. He has problems holding utensils, brushing his teeth, those kind of normal everyday tasks.
He can't, cut his food, or we even have special utensils that we bought.
Yeah, he's
that
getting
have bigger
better with
handles.
those.
He's getting better
with
with it.
those.
But it is a difficult time for him just to feed himself. There are resources out there that you can use, and addiction is something that shouldn't be kept in the closet, hidden. The more you talk about it and you get it out there, the better it is in the end.
Every day I want to help somebody else who might be going through the same things that I am.
As bad as it was, I'm lucky because I didn't hear the words, "We're sorry, he's gone." He lived.
talk to your family or your friends about it so that you can get the proper help.
Don't think that this could never happen to you, because it can happen to you. And if it does happen to you, don't be ashamed or embarrassed, and just hold your head up high and just get the help that you need for not only your child or whoever the addict is in your family, but for yourself. And there is help out there, and to please go and try to get it, and don't be ashamed or embarrassed.
You might think that doing drugs are going to make you cool, and all your friends might be asking you to do that and everything, and maybe you even try it once or twice, and nothing happens. And you might get away with it once, twice, 100 times. But in the end, something bad could certainly come of that. You should stay away from them to begin with, and, they can ruin your life.
Don't do any drugs because you can end up
Now, if you pay attention in science class or health and wellness class, you'll know that the human brain is made up of hundreds of millions of cells, all of which, like every cell in your body, needs oxygen when you're breathing. When he overdosed on that night, they now think that he probably went for about 2.5 minutes without breathing at all. 4 minutes and you'd be dead. But he went for about 2.5 minutes without breathing, without that oxygen getting to his brain cells. And as you know, the human brain is an amazing organ, and it controls everything about the human body. It controls sight, memory, smell, everything. And for whatever reason, when he overdosed and went without breathing for 2.5 minutes, and probably millions of brain cells of his died, it left his memory unaffected. His memory is totally fine. He has a better memory than I have, than his mother has. You ask him, I don't know, what's Big Papi's batting average right now? He's a sports encyclopedia. He could tell you. Okay, but unfortunately it affected vision. Like the video says, he's legally blind. It affected his speech a little bit, as you heard him talk in the video. But notice when he talks to you in a minute, how his talking has gotten much better than what you saw a year ago when that video was made. And also, it affected motor skills and how he walks and everything. But he's alive, and he's here, and he wants to talk to you people. Would you like to meet him? Corey, come on out.
Hi, everybody. I would like to apologize first off because the video is a little bit outdated, because I'm sure that you guys can tell by looking at me that I don't have any trouble eating anymore. And also that my life doesn't suck now because of going and speaking to groups like you guys. How many of you guys have your license or can't wait to get your license? Come on, everybody's hand should be up. And then how many of you guys like to use Facebook or Instagram? and your cell phones and your computers. Once again, all of your hands should be up, even you parents, because I know that's how you stalk your children. Well, I'm never going to be able to do any of those things ever again because of my sight and then my hand coordination now. And like when you guys become old enough to drink, like how many of you would like to go to a bar with your friends and watch a football game? Or the adults? Well, I can't do that either because I can't be around alcohol or even anything like that. So my days consist of going to doctor's appointments and physical therapy and speech therapy and occupational therapy. And also, my days just aren't like a normal 27-year-old should be. I should be off on my own, away from these two. But no, I'm really happy to have them here with me. And thank you guys for listening.
He definitely didn't lose his sense of humor through all of this, which is really a good thing. I just wanted to talk a little bit about our lives. You look up here and you see the three of us. My husband Dave is a middle school science teacher in the city of Taunton. I'm an insurance agent, and we have a son that was a National Honor Society varsity athlete that was a nursing major in college, and we are the new face of today's addict. We are the face of an addict's family. If you leave here without remembering anything, remember that, because people have an idea of what they think an addict is. It's not those people over there anymore. It doesn't know any boundaries. It doesn't discriminate. It can hit any family at any time. And believe me, we found that out the hard way. Corey was raised in a big Italian family that we had Sunday dinners with grandparents, aunts, uncles every week. My husband and I are active in our church. My husband is a Eucharistic minister and a lector at our church. He taught CCD. We just had what we thought was the perfect life. You know, that married couple, kids, house with the picket fence. We both worked. We both taught him good values. He knew right from wrong, and he still became a heroin addict. So you need to remember that this can happen to anyone. It reaches any family at any time. And that no matter how much we tell our kids the dangers of drugs, there's still such an opportunity that it can happen. And what you have to understand is with addiction, it wasn't like it was one big party for him that he just decided, I want to get high all the time because this is fun. He kind of fell into it. He kind of fell into it because he was trying to self-medicate himself for being depressed. So a lot of times when people look at an addict, they'll say, well, it was their choice. They did it themselves. He was introduced to that drug by a doctor through surgery. So it wasn't a choice. He didn't say, when I grow up, I want to be a drug addict. He wasn't using drugs to get high. He thought that it was just helping him feel better. I actually met a woman who her son was in high school, and he was kind of stressed about things, and he couldn't sleep. So he went into the medicine cabinet, and her husband had had surgery and had a bottle of 120 Vicodin that he never took, but he decided, I'm going to keep for a rainy day. I might have a toothache someday or something might happen that I need one of those pills. So their son innocently went into the medicine cabinet, said, I need something to help me sleep, to himself, saw Vicodin, said, these will probably help me sleep, took one, and then he decided to take one night after night after night. In 6 months, his mom found him dead of a heroin overdose in his bedroom. That was an innocent addiction. Corey's addiction was innocent. It wasn't like he was sitting around at a party wanting to snort all this stuff and get high. It can happen. It can happen to anyone. It happens in any family, in any socioeconomical group. It's out there, and it's just running rampant, not only in this state, but across this country. And what I like to tell families, especially the parents, the moms and the dads, I'm going to kind of get a hold of you right now, is that the 3 most dangerous words you can ever think are not my kid. Oh, I got a good kid. He's a good student. She's a good student. They're a great kid. They've never gotten in trouble. I don't have to worry about this. Yes, you do. That's the way I thought. I didn't walk around saying, oh, my kid's, never going to do anything wrong, but it never in a million years even entered my mind when the doctor gave him that prescription after he had surgery that would become the biggest nightmare of our life, because when he was younger, he wouldn't even take a Tylenol. He wouldn't take a pill for anything. I would try to give him a cold pill or a Tylenol. He wanted absolutely nothing. And then all of a sudden, there he is, hooked on drugs. Did I see this coming? No, never in a million years. Was it like the biggest shock of my life? Yes. Was it the worst time of my life? Yes. Because I guess I wasn't prepared. I thought, my son's 18 years old. He walked across the stage. You saw him graduating with his little tassel from the National Honor Society. He was going on to be a nursing major. Who knew more about drugs, or who learned more about drugs in college than him being a nursing major? Did any of that matter? No, it didn't. All the good upbringing and everything that we ever taught him, in the end, did not matter. Addiction crept into our world, and it's like a family disease. It not only affected him, it affected us, it affected his grandparents, his aunts, his uncles, his cousins, everyone. The old stereotype no longer holds for what people consider an addict to be. So as a parent or a family member, I just want you to if you remember anything, just remember that, if surgery ever comes around or any event happens where they need to be prescribed a drug, just make sure you're aware of what they're taking, and you as the patient, you as the athlete, if you need to take a drug, be aware of it, or just look for alternate pain management, because a Percocet or an Oxy, they're an opiate, and they are addicting. They are very, very addicting. And then there's this thought of people out there of heroin. I mean, before this happened with us, I thought heroin was like such a bad word. Like, oh my God, anybody that does heroin, that's like the worst thing ever. What people don't realize is people will say, oh, my kid was addicted, but they only took Oxy, they didn't take heroin. They're both opioids. They're both the same exact thing. I think some people have a misconception of what heroin is, maybe because they shoot it. But I just want to stress to families to just always realize that it doesn't happen to just those people over there, and that I have a good kid and I don't have to worry about it, because I had one of the best kids ever. And it actually drives me kind of crazy when people refer to my kid now as an addict. Yes, he was addicted to heroin, and he is paying for it every day of his life, having to live disabled. But he is also very athletic, smart, funny, social, outgoing. And I hate it that he's labeled just as an addict, because he's so much more than that. And they definitely are just normal people like us that unfortunately make a bad mistake. They make a bad choice. I think sometimes people that become addicted, they just don't have a coping mechanism. They don't really know how to cope with anything. And you'll see it out in society all the time. Oh, I need a drink. I need a drink so bad. I hear that all the time. People want to take something to make them feel better. And like I said before, it just becomes the absolute biggest problem that you'll ever have in your life. Now, Corey had a lot of hopes and dreams, so maybe he can tell you a little bit about, what his hopes and dreams were.
My hopes and dreams were to go to college and become a nurse anesthetist or a physician assistant, and then get married and have a bunch of kids. And then live long and a prosperous life.
And now he can still do that, but he just, has to obviously live a little bit differently. Well, you never know. Maybe he'll have some kids. You never know. But we've been doing a lot publicly. Corey's story kind of is appealing to the media because a lot of people that are in the throes of addiction are either actively using, they're in recovery, or unfortunately, this disease takes so many lives. Over 100 people in this country die every day from a heroin overdose. Heroin and drug overdoses now kill more teenagers than auto accidents. That's a new stat.
In other words, guys, you have a better chance of, if you were going to die in 17, 18, 19 years old, of dying from a drug overdose than being killed in a car accident. That's an incredible stat if you think about it.
So because Corey's story is kind of unique because he's so fortunate that he lived, the doctors actually told him he was a miracle. He spent 40 days between Falmouth Hospital, Mass General, and Spalding Rehab in 2 straight years of speech therapy, occupational therapy, everything that we need to do to get him on the right road. But I'll have Corey tell you a little bit about some of the things that we've done publicly. And we're not doing these things publicly because, we want to be on TV or we want to be in the newspaper. We're doing these things because we want to help somebody. If we can help one person out there, then I think that, we'll be so happy if we can just change one life or alter one life. Corey actually asked me to tell you about it. He actually had an appointment at Brigham and Women's today, and he had an injection in his back, so he's a little worn out. So I'll tell you. He was on HBO Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel, where they did a episode called, was it Hooked? And it was about the heroin epidemic in this country and how it has hit athletes. So if any of you ever go home, when you go home, if you want to watch that, it was pretty interesting. It profiles a bunch of different young athletes, just like him, who were just living normal, everyday lives that somehow got wrapped up in this epidemic. We've also been on CBS Evening News. We did that story about a year ago. He's been, we got a phone call from a producer at ESPN, and they may be interested in coming out and doing a story on him. And we're doing all of this in hopes that people will realize this is real. This is real stuff. This happens to real people. I mean, if you had told me years ago that this was going to happen to me, I would have laughed in your face. I would have said there is absolutely no way that my son, he's such a good kid, would be an addict. I was so proud when he graduated from high school, thinking, I've done my job. He's 18 years old. He's going off to college, patting myself on the back. You're a great mom, Laura. You did a great job. Look at the man you raised. He's awesome. And you know what? He still is awesome. He just made a bad choice. And, just remember that these people that are having a problem with addiction, they're good people. And I always tell kids, because I always tell Corey's friends this, his friends from high school that he played sports with, they kind of became separated from him because he was lying when he was using, and they were trying to help him, and he wouldn't listen. So they kind of just went their own separate ways. But I always tell his friends, I wish somebody came and told me. I wish somebody said, Laurie, you know what, Corey's got a problem. And no one did. And my advice to you, I know that your loyalty is to your friends. You're in high school, you have friends, and your loyalty is to them. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you know or you suspect that a friend of yours is using drugs, this isn't anything to fool around with. It's nothing to just turn the other cheek. You really need to either tell your parents or tell your parents or tell their parents. If you don't want to tell their parents, tell your own parents and give them the wonderful job of having to go and tell your friends' parents. And, I always tell people, you know what? If Corey's friends told me, he probably would have been really mad at them and got so mad and never talked to them, or I'm not talking to you again or whatever. But it's a lot better than going to your friend's funeral someday and knowing that maybe you could have made a difference. And, some of his friends have told me, maybe if I went to you, maybe this wouldn't have happened. He wouldn't have, brain damage right now and having to live disabled. So if if you're a true friend, even though it's hard to make choices like that, it's a good idea to just get them help. Go to a trustworthy adult. If you don't want to tell a parent, we actually spoke at a high school, and we had 2 kids that sent anonymous emails to guidance saying that they knew of a couple kids that needed some help. So that actually brought tears to my eyes when they told me that afterwards, that maybe we made a difference in those 2 lives. So it's not fun and games. It's not funny. I think when we're all young, we want to experiment with these things, or we want to drink, and it's not funny. Look at Corey. Well, I'm totally blessed. People say to me, oh, you and your husband, you have so much to deal with. You have an adult son to take care of. Our lives have changed. I have to work from home. I am the luckiest mom in the world because he's here with me. And they told me that he wasn't going to live, that they had no hope for him, that when he came off life support, he probably wasn't going to breathe, and we were going to have to make a decision to pull the plug. I'm so lucky because he's here. So I just feel very fortunate, and now we feel as though maybe this didn't happen in vain, that we can go out and we can talk to groups of students like you and parents like you and just make you aware that the addict is the kid next door. It's the kid that's ringing up your order in the grocery store. It's someone that works in the attorney's office or in Target, and to be aware of that. I just wanted to mention one group that we belong to, my husband and I. It's called Learn to Cope, and it's a support group for parents and their families that are dealing with addiction. I left out on the table, I brought some brochures and paperwork, and there's a really neat one for parents called Connecting the Dots to Opiate Abuse. I would find in his room Q-tips. You'd be like, wow, he's got the cleanest ears. I'm finding all these Q-tips in his room. Well, there's something that is used to prepare drugs. I had a couple spoons.
Or if you're missing a lot of spoons.
Yeah.
That's not a good sign.
Yeah, cotton balls, things like that. So please feel free to take this, and it also tells you some, changes in attitude or moods. I always tell people, you know your own kid, and I knew when he came home that he wasn't right, but I figured, well, he's living away from school, maybe he's drinking, he's burning the candle at both ends, maybe that's why he came home moody and irritable, but I knew something was wrong. But living in my little fantasy world of drugs are never going to come into my life never even entered my mind. So, please feel free to take that. We'll also be out back later if anyone has any questions. But we wanted to do a question and answer now if anybody had any questions for any of us. Not one?
Question. Some schools we go to, there's about 100. Others, there's not one. Well, then I guess this pretty much concludes our presentation to you. If you take nothing away, remember, drugs are the problem. They're not the answer to the problem.
Thank you, guys. In closing, I just want to mention one thing. This is very, very courageous for them to come out here and share their story, to open up and tell you what happened and how they've suffered. We have a family in our own city right here, Marie and Carmen Lucchese. They've done the same thing. They've struggled with their son's, Justin's, addiction for many years. And very similar situation. Very similar situation. Prescription pain medication to start with. Years and years of struggle and addiction, in and out of rehab and relapsing. The only difference is Justin's not going to come walking down this aisle today or any other day. October 3rd, 2014, Justin passed away of a heroin overdose right in our own city. Woburn High School alumni. Good athlete, great student, great kid. So just think about that when you make, and please make that right decision. Please make the right decision. Thank you so much for coming. Good night.